Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Metaworld News. This program features our headlines for, wait for it, the 5th of January 20 effing 20.
There you did it. All right.
Yep, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
That's it.
I did it. I've done it. Yay. Right. Applause. Yeah, so everybody, Happy New Year to all of you. The holidays are actually well behind us now, but it's still the new year, sort of, if you follow that calendar anyway. And obviously, over a holiday period, things tend to be quiet. So although we've actually had 2 weeks away from you, um, well, there have been a lot of links, to be honest, over that period. But I mean, when it came to actually choosing a few highlights for this the 3 weeks ending the 5th of January 2020, it wasn't actually too difficult. Um, a mixed sort of thing. The mainstream news not is just fairly rudimentary. A few important things, and in social virtual worlds, of course, things have been. There's probably not any real great news at the moment, but things have been turned on their heads a bit by recent events, which started before the holidays. So, to move straight on to things, my name is Mal Burns. That's MAL and then BURNS, and I'm joined here by James Outloud. James is commenting now and again, but he's also, as you can probably see on the video, he's fiddling with buttons, you see, and he's got like a double monitor there beside him, um, which doesn't seem to be moving at this angle, but you know, I don't know. Anyway, he's controlling all these multiple cameras. You see, we've got hundreds of cameras scattered around the studio here, so you can get 1,000 different views of my face, kind of thing, and his and stuff. Wow, I'm maybe exaggerating slightly. Yeah. But you get the idea. So, welcome, James, and thank you, James.
Yep. Thank you, Mal.
Okay. And speaking of the me, Malbones, you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Malbones, or one word, MALBONS. We have another Twitter feed for this show, which is twitter.com/Metaworld News. The two words squashed together again. The latter is mostly to do with social virtual worlds. The rest is more to do with virtual worlds and virtuality a bit in general, so to speak. Right, starting with, oh yes, I should say one of the things James is doing too is by the magic of the interwebs, he's actually broadcasting my desktop to you as well. So if you get fed up looking at my avatar, he can replace me with a screen showing what I'm talking about. All very interesting. And I can even move my mouse cursor for you live. Gosh golly!
That's excellent.
Never you, yeah, never used to be able to do this stuff, did we?
Mm-mm.
Right. Okay, the first thing I've got open is a site called thenextweb.com. Three words there. The Next Web, all squashed together and then .com. And this is actually, well, on my screen it says 3 days ago, so it's obviously, it doesn't say what day, just 3 days ago. Um, Michel Cortez and Andre Zello. Anyway, general focus article: how to protect users from harassment in social virtual world spaces. To the point here, it's general interest anyway, but specifically. If you're worried about harassment and stuff in virtual worlds, basically social VR spaces. And this could be things in the headset, as you can see there, or it could just be stuff on screen. And a few horror stories of people who've actually been sort of effectively sexually harassed and stuff in worlds and things with unsolicited virtual kisses. Gosh golly. I think you got away lucky with that one, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I do remember when I was in the Second Life program, about a decade ago now. I was, shall I say, otherwise, well, no, I was attacked. Yeah, let's be fair. I was attacked by some brutish guy who managed to kick me over onto my stomach and mount me like a horse.
Mm-hmm.
fully dressed, but even so, it's a bit weird, you know. It's more of a psychological problem than the real physical violence problem it is in the real world. But nevertheless, you know, so different degrees of that, and looking after yourself, as you can see, quite a lot of the illusory virtual self, looking at it in a whole sort of different ways. Um, what do, I quite like this one. What do you do on a daily basis to avoid being sexually assaulted? Men, nothing. Women, endless list. That does show there's a certain sexual bias there as well, but yeah, not funny, but sort of worth giggling at if you see what I mean. Right. Anyway, I'm scrolling here, just to give you an idea of how long the article is and how much stuff is here, including hefty illustrations from this one's Facebook Horizon. Apparently, I've never been in that.
No,
Don't
I
really
haven't
want to
either.
go. Don't even want to go in there really. Social spaces. Yeah, this Facebook Spaces, which I don't know whether it even exists anymore. VR chats. They have their own trust and safety system. So a whole load of stuff there. So you want more than that? You want to go to the next web, or one word, or three words as one word, .com. And that was about 3 days ago. If you want to look up the article, let's go back to the top. It's actually called "How to Protect Users from Harassment in Social VR Spaces." So that's the headline, or the post to look for. Okay, let's dispose of that and move to whatever is before it. Virtual reality times here. This is www.virtualrealitytimes, all one word, three words as one. Despite the fact their logo just says VR Times, the website is actually virtualrealitytimes.com. So make sure you get that right. You can always click from the Twitter links, of course, that I mentioned earlier. I will no doubt mention again before we're gone, as another route to following the links. Anyway, now a summary article. You know how it is with the new year. People are making New Year resolutions. Not sure why, because they've normally broken them a couple of days later. But the press in particular loves having articles about sort of, oh, that was the year what has gone, and this is
Right.
the year what is coming up, as if anybody knows what's happening tomorrow, really. And everyone's got a different opinion on what happened in the year before. Virtual Reality Times, obviously, is quite a good rag to follow for news and stuff like that. So their predictions are probably closer to home than others might be. Um, I like the first paragraph here. Well, hang on, let's find it there. Still waiting for the killer VR app, basically, and they have no idea what it might be, despite the title of the article. Um, they can look back and they can look basically at VR that's already happened in 2020 and stuff like that, and put all the things together. But we don't know. We don't know what's around the corner at all. Um, the only thing we can probably say with any degree of certainty is that Facebook Horizon will arrive and last for some time, whether it's any good or not. Being cynical here. I'm going to put that away. Virtualrealitytimes.com. That's all you need to know. Um, yeah, same site again, uh, reporting on research. Virtual reality and augmented reality industries are to be worth 30 billion US dollars by the year 2030. Well, this is the kind of what's happening in the next decade. Yes, they're going to grow and be worth 30 billion. Um, how they reach figures like that for a 10-year period, I'm not at all sure. There's too many variables for me to ever want to put my name to something like that kind of prediction. But there again, there's plenty of people around doing research who feel their results qualify a statement. Right. Anyway, looking at all the sides of it and stuff like that. Um, Again, annual report kind of thing, really. Right. Moving on. VR upload. No, sorry, upload VR. Yeah, get it right way around here, shall we? Uploadvr.com. Stylee is an ambitious AR VR creation platform you can try now. Um, some of you who are familiar with virtual reality may have heard of the one I can't remember the name
Tilt
of.
brush?
Tilt brush. That's it. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Oh, did I tell you I'm giving up this show, folks? More on that later. Well, I'm not
Yeah.
really, not really. Yeah, tilt brush, where you actually paint in 3D in a 3D environment. So instead of having a brush that paints on the canvas, you got the brush. Imagine holding a real paintbrush. Instead of painting in front of you on the canvas, you just whoosh it around in thin air, move it up and down and forwards and back, and it leaves a trail of paint, like blobs of paint hanging in midair. And that's sort of the way it works. You know, you actually paint and create in the additional dimensions. We've had that for a while in a sense. You know, with virtual worlds like Second Life and Open Sim here, where you know, you have the tool, you're in a 3D world, even if it's on a 2D screen, and you have the tools that enable you to author in three dimensions, opposed to just two, that are the sort of things on the old web and your computer screen tended, you know, to be two-dimensional replicas of things as opposed to fully three-dimensional environments. Anyway, there's uh, um, this Stylee thing. I keep detected by the picture there.
Stillies?
Stylee's new mobile AR app basically allows you to sort of create inside a virtual environment. And what's fascinating about this, let me move it up a little bit there with that picture. It's a shame it's not bigger for our screen thing. Um, you're basically looking at an iPad or something, which of course is a 2D screen, but using well the AR apps there, you're seeing this sort of 3D world built on top of the 2D scene that is seen by the camera, and you are actually able to create, you know, within that imaginary scene or enhanced scene, I should say. And I think I'm not entirely sure, but the way these things often work is you will be able to save what you create, and um, well, I suppose ideally you save it on the map of or on the location sensor of that location. Although maybe you can just save what you do and load it anytime anywhere, but it is clearly tied here to you know, the augmented reality scene in front of people. Um, Let me see. Just wanting a array of experiences through the Stylee platform. 2 days in Tokyo. One of these companies, they're incredibly bullish about the future of AR, VR. Their CEO at one point tells me he thinks everybody will be wearing a headset all day in the
Hmm.
near future, and there's little sign of bluffing. Psychic VR is prepared to try out different things in an attempt to hold a stake in that hopeful horizon. Well, that is news. I personally don't particularly fancy living in a world that Mashiro Yakin, the CEO of that company, wants to see. 24 hours a day where everybody wears headsets. Come off it, come off it. Only
Hmm.
Japanese would even consider it. Anyway, so uploadvr.com. The article once is about Stylee, an ambitious AR VR creation platform. And it is live now, so you can go and mess with it and imagine a dystopian future for yourself. Yes. Right. Um, this is an interesting one. InnoTech Today, this link is. So that's INNOTECT. Oh, I'm, I'm not on the ball today, you know. I'm going to have to start that again. It's Inno Tech Today. So it's INNOTECH and then today, but all squashed together. So you got innotechtoday.com. And yep, they want you to have cookies and newsletters and all sorts of other things. And their sidebar conflicts with the. Never mind. Not the best of design here, is it? Right. What does 2020 hold for XR beyond gaming? XR is the two letters. Maybe they mean yeah extended reality, whatever. But it's the phrases tends to be used to include augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, collectively known as extended reality or XR. So when people talk about what XR holds for the future. They're actually talking about all those different things, including virtual reality, of course. Um, they say the market is growing at an exponential pace across a broad range of industries. They are focused on industries here, which is probably a good thing because the use of headsets and things is certainly growing in industry and various aspects of commerce. Although oddly enough, not for domestic users. Who, over and beyond hardcore gamers, don't really seem to be prepared to introduce headsets into their living rooms. Um, but anyway, lots of looking ahead there. Not lots of looking ahead, but a little bit of looking ahead, shall we say? Education, training, the enterprises, and yeah, professionals in the system, so to speak. Um, Another annual kind of roundup gig. Right, Forbes. We're back to Forbes here.
Back to
This is
Forbes. You're doing a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Forbes.com, Forbes.com. And again, highly relevant to us. One of the few articles recently. VR needs more social. 70% of virtuality users want more social engagement, which is interesting. I mean, when this article speaks of virtuality users, they are almost certainly talking about people who are in headsets to experience 3D virtuality environments. And they reckon 70% of them want more social engagement. In other words, um, despite having a lot of flashy things ranging from 360 video to, sort of short cinematic style games and stuff like that. Um, a lot of things to show off the platforms, but actually not that much for social stuff for users. They're often in Discord on back channels and in spaces in 3D. But the really is that we've got OpenSim here. You've got places like Second Life. You've had Science Space, various social virtual worlds, and with the exception, obviously, Facebook Horizons is coming along, and you've got VR Chat and a few that actually are in the 3D, headset space as well. But it seems there's a need for more, and probably across generations too. In other words, I mean, it's often said something like Second Life, for example, although it's a closed system. It's got a lot of elderly users, should we put it politely, and it's got quite a few young users who've moved from Minecraft and things into what they can do in somewhere like that, or OpenSim here indeed. But there's this sort of middle range of people where the virtual worlds do not, because they do so much more than games, they don't necessarily compare with the graphical quality of games and stuff. So the environments available, social environments too. Depending on the audience demographic, there's probably differences that are sort of required. Depending, well, the age group more than anything else, I would say. But anyway, just a bit more information there. They've even produced a couple of graphs, which will no doubt delight Maria. um, you will find that at www.forbes.com. And oh, I don't believe this. Right. For some reason, that article is dated April 30th of 2018.
Oh my.
Now, I don't. Well, it's probably just a good. It's a valid thing to revisit. Exactly why it came through on a current feed is anybody's guess. Mind you, in the last couple of weeks, some very weird things have been happening. Anything to do with the interwebs is definitely suspect at the moment. I reckon they're using the holiday program to completely mess with the world's connectivity.
Hmm.
And they got the date wrong on that one. Okay, I'm going to put it away. VRFocus.com. VRFocus, all one word.com. This is just this is VR on this occasion. And oh, these naughty people. Put your plastic pop up away, will you? I can't scroll to the. Right, I'm just going to have to do a bit of cheating here. There we are. move the frame itself. Tesla suit unveils a new VR glove ahead of CES 2020. The Consumer Electronics Show in America is imminent. A post from last week, back in 2019. Gosh golly, that's ancient, isn't it? Right, just over a week to go before the biggest event, CES 2020, opens its doors again, showcasing the latest gadgets from around the world. And some companies have already begun to announce the latest products to be on display, including virtual reality immersion specialist Tesla Suit, and it'll be making its new Tesla Suit glove for getting its first public debut. And there indeed is your Tesla Suit glove. Um, Probably just as bulky as a headset, but maybe you won't notice so much if it's on your hand. Um, I love watching little things like this. I would actually like a sort of lycra type glove with nose in it, without all the the thing that makes me look like the Terminator 29 or something. But the idea, I do like finger technology. I've liked, I always liked the idea of things like the leap motion and stuff, rather than putting a headset on and having the whole works. Just a haptic device of some sort for what I feel like using, as opposed to the whole gamut. Um, anyway, they're not saying how much these gloves will cost. Um, since the bigger and chunkier are, the more expensive they are. Um, it's a business orientated product. The cost will likely be in keeping with devices like HoloLens 2, which is 3,000 US dollars, and Magic Leap 1, which is almost the same, 2,995 US dollars. And oh, here's one, Magnus Prime Haptics, 5,000 euro. Which is more than both of the others, right? Although less than 5,000 US dollars. Yeah. Anyway. So that is coming up at CES, and of course, we will no doubt have a whole loads of links on this program following CES, which is when the first we get first sight of a lot of these new gadgets that will be either ubiquitous next year or long forgotten by next year. Just take
Mm-hmm.
depending. Yep. Click. Click. I said close tab you. Wish I could tell this the lesser smarter device to do it for me. Right. XR Association. Again, XR is VR, AR, all of it together. Releasing new guidelines for social VR. So this was published Boxing Day, as we call it in Britain, the day after Christmas. Um, they've released new guidelines for social VR and immersive spaces. XRA, sorry, is an industry consortium of leading manufacturers. Its mission is to serve as a resource for researchers, policymakers, and partners across the industry. And there, they've got their own little logo too. Um, Facebook is preparing to release Facebook Horizon. Lower priced HMNGs such as the Oculus Quest are coming in. And yeah, it's an important time, they reckon. Let's see. Uh, right, this may be the. I'm thinking that this is. Hmm. Okay, I believe the XR Association does actually include all the major players, the Apples, the Googles, the Facebooks, and you wanted. I did have a link open, probably a different link at some point in the last 2 weeks, which actually named the companies and the things they will be trying to do together. I think this really is they're limiting their reporting here to the primer itself, as it were, which is probably a PDF if I remember rightly. Let's have a look. There we are. Yeah, you can um, you can go here and then literally save the PDF. uh, all very technical stuff, all very well presented, very slick corporate graphic design type stuff. No shortage of money behind this operation. um, Fairly sure of that. Right, okay, let's put that away and whatever. Right. Engadget, engadget.com. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I forgot to reposition the thingy. What's it?
Oh,
Sorry, Jade.
that's all right.
It's in a fixed position for a reason, as Jade will tell you. And if I'm forced by some stupid pop-up to relocate, it's very easy to forget to put it back. Right. 2020 is VR's make and break year. I suspect this could be very well true, if it isn't already. Um, as I say, cheaper headsets coming along on the VR technology side, and new haptic toys coming along. Um, more and more content being released, which is headset capable and hopefully, 2D screen capable too. I don't like hearing of things that can only be viewed. Except for maybe little special experiences that are made for VR headsets. I don't like the idea that some platform is going to be VR headset only and is going to, not available to people who want to see it on their desktop 2D screen or on their iPads or Android pads um, even Windows. Oh, that's sort of already counted in there. Right. Um, Yeah, but I think we are getting to a crucial point. VR headsets are here to stay. They're in the enterprise with hardcore gamers and stuff like that. How long it would take them down to filter into other audiences? Will that possibly be um, there possibly be a trend factor, copy, what your neighbour's got kind of thing. But also a lot will be down to content too. And from the sound of that other article too, how much proper, social context there is to a lot of these things. Something that undoubtedly Facebook will dive into. But is that really the social app you're looking for? After all, Facebook itself is already there. You're really probably only going to get a sort of 3D version somehow of what Facebook already is, complete with the shopping malls. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I think we'll see things this year. Partly because the end of last year has seen a few players in the dedicated space rather than big companies. But when things like hi-fi, high fidelity have rapidly changed and pulled back on what they were doing. Rumors are that even old players like Linden Lab may have bitten off more they can chew when with their custom Sansar program. Um, but also some of the things, I mean, VR chat's going well, and some of the others. But there's others I've got Discord channels for and things that are clearly on their way out. They haven't taken off in any kind of numbers. So I think there'll be lessons to be learned there as to what people want and don't want, and how much it takes to start overcrowding a particular niche, things like that. So we will see. We will see. Anyway, go to engadget.com if you want to read that kind of little summary that they've got there. They've got a few pictures to look at, videos to look at, and stuff. In fact, it's quite a long article, as you can see. And yeah, then they've got their year in review at the end, graphic at the end there. Right, moving on again. Masterpiece VR. There we are. Yeah. Um, this is roadtovr.com. We know of them, don't we? We go there quite a lot. In fact, I will. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. That's the thing to do. Right. Road to VR, all one word.com there. Masterpiece VR launches a studio suite for sculpting and animating models in VR. You can get free licenses and pay commercial licenses. Now, I think these are VR creation tools. I think these plug into Unity. Oh, I may be wrong. I may, but there've been a couple of things like this. Um, okay. No, I think this may be. Yeah, I think this may actually be standalone. It may not be a plugin that requires Unity. Um, so if you want to fiddle with it,
Mm.
Where are we? You can download the free version from the company's website, or through Steam, or through Viveport. So it is. No, it's just called Masterpiece VR actually. So if you want to be a master of whatever VR
Mm.
is, you can. Well,
Okay.
Master. It's called Masterpiece Studio actually, as opposed to Masterpiece VR. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the company's website myself here, so I can give you tell you for sure where you need to be. Right, you create an account with Facebook, Google. Here we are. Okay, this is masterpiecestudio.com. That's the website you want here. So masterpiece studio, or one word.com, and that's where you want to go for that one. Right. Okay, moving back or forward, it's depending on which way you're looking at it. Virtualrealityreporter.com. I've been picking up a few from the site a while recently. So I think it's an aggregating sort of site, but it still produces a few things of interest. This is the XR Association. Voice of XR Manufacturers releases update to the developer's guide. Now, the guide I think is different from the statement thing that we covered on a couple of links back. Obviously, all this stuff is actually being released at the same time. Um, they had a developers conference in October, etc., about the association. Here we are. Um, Facebook, Google, HTC Vive, Microsoft, Samsung, Sony Interactive Entertainment. Ah, and that appears to be the highlights. The association promotes the growth and development of the XR industry, fosters dialogue among public and private stakeholders, develops industry best practices, and provides education, training, marketing information related to the industry. And probably has a fair amount of money to do it from, as we saw from their glossy brochures a while back. Um, right. The idea. Well, for developers, designers, everything else. They basically want to create, a kind of uniform way of looking at things for developers and stuff that will tie various products together, amongst other things. Not totally. Whether they succeed or not, I don't know. It's um, major industries that form these associations don't necessarily actually get anywhere with them. I mean, it's the way they evolve and take off and get adopted is far different from the open source world. But we'll see. We'll see. There you go. So virtualityreporter.com. Virtuality Reporter is all one squash word. Right, road to VR again, complete with another pop-up. Feel Real VR scent mask hits a roadblock amidst crackdown on flavoured vaping products. Now, I think this is funny. I will admit that I smoked cigarettes until about 2 years ago, and I actually got seriously ill with a sort of flu type thing. I never did find out what it was, but it knocked me out for about 2 weeks, and I couldn't get anything resembling a cigarette near my mouth without I'd probably kill myself. I certainly couldn't breathe it in. And I had looked at the odd vaping things and electronic cigarettes and stuff, but nothing would kind of replace the good old nicotine cigarette. But anyway, after 2 weeks of not being able to smoke, there just wasn't any point in starting again. And pleased to say I haven't been near one since. And including, nor have I been tempted to go and buy vaping devices or whatever. The couple I had didn't produce much smoke anyway, so they were hardly sort of cool toys to smoke in the street. Not those cool kids, who hang out on street corners these days with a it looks more like a bong than a smoking
Oh, okay.
device. And they'll be smelling of anything from strawberries to cinnamons or whatever. But more to the point, they produce huge volumes of vapor that
Yeah.
really look like more smoke than a smoking device would. And they're just showing off the fact that they can blow all this vapor out of their mouths. And apparently, as is the way often these days, there's no market research done. But you had the government and people like that saying, "Oh yeah, well you could take up vaping. It's definitely safer than smoking."
Mm.
Cough, cough. But yeah, they haven't bothered to look at the vapor itself. Apparently, does not do any damage. But if you buy flavored things and there's no control over what people put in as flavoring, well. things have gone a bit awry, and is it FD federal? Well, both in Britain and America, I know, have come down strongly on, crack down on vaping. And this is just funny because this is something, and it never occurred to me when, I mean, sometime in the last year, I think I remember this being announced, and we showed the picture, and I was saying, it's about bringing aromatherapy to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm joking about it in some ways, but there you can see, well, the Oculus, I think it's an Oculus Go.
Mm-hmm.
I might be
Looks like
wrong.
it. Yep.
But it's got the vapor, the feel real scent mask attached, and that, is like a 3D printer or even a paper printer. It's got so many substrates in it or whatever that mix and match to make up the scent required for the job. So if you're walking through a virtual reality woodland, for example, the scent components would mix to give you a simulation of the smells of woodland and kind of things like that. But yeah, the crackdown on vaping products has kind of hit this industry as well because no surprise here, really. The idea here is to get a scent. It's not to be vaping or whatever, but the very technology in use to provide simulated scents. It does mean that you are inhaling however small, minute amounts of things that give you the different scents. And if now they've decided that quite possibly vaping products are very dangerous, and they're getting worried about stuff like this too. Um, I believe that next week I can expect a visit when they will come round and confiscate my little bowls with aromatherapy oils in, because I've been polluting the air in my building here for the last 30 years. And yes, they probably just discovered that my essential oils are too smelly for the world, for my
Oh,
health.
okay.
Yeah. And well, as for the good old incense stick, that's smoking. You can't do that.
Hmm.
Huh. And oh yeah, I got other ones where I put them in a little bowl with a little candle underneath, and they're crystals, and they melt to become a liquid, and then they give off smelly stuff. Now, because they're crystals, they they don't smoke like the incense sticks, and they probably don't vape like the oil burner, but they're probably illegal too. I'll have to check it out. We now have a new government, so no doubt we've got about, you know, twice as many illegal things coming up
Hmm.
than we had before.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I think we better get back
Okay.
to the actual news as opposed to the rabbit hole news.
Yeah.
I will leave it up to you to decide what was true and false in that little excursion. After all, if it was false, these days it might be true. And if it was true, these days it might have been false. So just bear that in mind when you consider it. And that's my new resolution to caution you as to the authenticity of my words. Right,
All right.
back on track, back on track. That was a rabbit hole. My monitor went to sleep. Okay. Anyway, so Feel Real VR Scent Mask has hit a roadblock amidst crackdown on flavoured vaping projects. I know, this is James, you laughed the moment that came on screen. And you've got to admit that, yeah.
Just
Um,
scent is not one of the experiences I'm looking for in virtual reality. I can understand
mm,
people trying to cover. I guess, do you know the phrase "cover all the bases" of
yeah.
a sensory experience? But
Mm.
scent's not up there for me. I don't know why.
I don't know. I think as I sort of implied there, I do actually use aromatherapy.
Right. Right.
I like smells in my environments. I like them when they change
Hmm.
according to my mood. Um,
I just often find any scenting to be way too strong.
oh yeah, but it is like a volume switch. How much? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I don't know. I mean, yeah, I must tend to agree with you in a way because I don't like the idea of the full immersion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh yeah, vaguely brief interludes with it, fine. But I don't like the idea we would just put on headsets and mask out, something that takes over the sound and the smell and the vision and the touch. And well, what happens if you sit in a headset and your house catches fire? Well, you want to be able to smell the smoke, don't you? You want some indicator of what's going on. If you so keeping your nose free is helpful. Your hands might be tied up in a glove. Your eyes are tied up in a headset. Your ears are tied up in a sound system, and yeah, at least keep our well. No, there's another contraption, isn't there? That I forget who it does. It dispenses a taste thing like a confectionery into your mouth
Mm. Hmm.
at intervals, so you don't have to use your hands to pick up your candy. Yeah, just balmy, and that's not talking about Japan either.
Right.
Lord
Well, and
knows what they've
maybe
got.
the VR that we use now is, in a way, it's still like media. It's something that we are using to communicate with each other. And
Hmm.
I don't believe that we really have any traditions of communicating with smell. It's not a channel that we use for messaging. It's a channel that helps us understand environments, but not. I don't
Hmm.
think it's any message from an author really comes through odor, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. Same with taste, though, in a
And
way. I mean,
taste, yeah, yep.
it depends on, if somebody makes a cocktail of scents that smells really nice, then it becomes a product or a mix that I like, then in a sense they have communicated. It's like, and in food, like a chef who makes
Hmm.
a magic dish has a certain ingredients.
Right.
Um, there's an element of communication there, but they're essential functions too. I mean, we smell and taste. The thing about our senses is that we need them to live and survive as
Mm.
human beings, unadulterated with add-on contraptions. Augmenting ourselves is one thing, but replacing things that the human body has and needs, that's very different.
Mm.
Um, would you choose to be blinded in order to have some special things fitted into your eye sockets that apparently allow you to see but do you a thousand things more? Even if it was painless and done in an operating table, would you want to go through that when there was even the slightest risk of losing your actual eyes?
Yeah, given the nature
In
of
the
human
it,
beings, I'm sure there are people who would.
oh, there's people that will do it too.
Right.
It's like I mean, look at the horrifying way, the percentage of the population, especially female, that have things done with Botox to them.
Sure. Yep.
I mean, that to me is uh, totally inhuman. Oh God, what's the word? I mean, masochism of sorts, and also ways of it looks horrendous. I don't know. I've just never understood. But clearly, um, people are attracted by that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean,
People are ready to
I
signing
would.
up to go to Mars.
Yeah, well, I don't mind having a chip inserted in my wrist that will, but connect with my devices and stuff like that. I'm blowed if I want an artificial eyeball put in to replace an actual eyeball. Enhancement is one thing, but replacing the good old stuff I've already got. As you can probably see from this avatar, I did have a little experiment in this regard, and well, just look at this avatar's eyes. You know,
They're
the
there.
the augmented reality people, they've just they can't see me irises, can't see nothing. I actually look like a vacant zombie, but I can still see my screen and talk to you. But I don't look more attractive for having black eyes, do I? But I'm stuck with them now. I can't get me other eyes back. I've been trying, I really have. Right, back to the future. Or rather, this moving to our picture on screen, you will see there's a rather lovely sort of invisible person walking in their t-shirts and costumes there. Rather nice, isn't it?
We've
You
we've
might
left
think.
we've left the smell headset.
Oh no, yes, we've moved
Okay.
on from smell
Okay.
because the article is coming up. This is a post at Esquire.com, Esquire
Okay.
magazine.
Esquire magazine. Yep.
ESQUIRE.com. And the title of this article is, wait for it, In the Future, Your Clothes Will Be Made Out of Pixels.
Hmm.
Inside the Wild West of Digital Fashion. Now, this is intriguing. Actually, I mean, we have probably seen T-shirts that are made of fabrics and change color depending on temperature and things like that. But this is something else entirely. The entire garment is a virtual garment, but that become can become visible in thin air and be worn. So you can be um, you can be a model on a catwalk, and you can be wearing this really high-tech, shimmering sort of fashion garment, you know, and it's made completely out of pixels. In other words, you're watching a virtual reality sort of garment. Unfortunately, if somebody pulls the plug, the model finds themselves on naked on stage because it's not a garment that has any tactile form where the pixels are being projected on it. The pixels exist, a bit like augmented reality. The pixels exist above the body of the person wearing them. And I've been trying to get my head around this actually. To figure out just how you would even start making something like this. But intriguing dress, if you can call it that. It could be a cape or poncho. Light reflects from its surface a shimmering, translucent silver with oil slick pinks and golds, seemingly woven into the fabric. Named Iridescence, it was designed by the fabricant, a recently founded Dutch design fashion house. In May this year, it was bought by Canadian executives called Richard Marr for £7,800 at auction as a gift for his wife Rachel. Rather than being made from lace, silk, cotton, polyester, or any other fabric, natural or synthetic, the dress is formed out of pixels. A computer generated garment that is superimposed onto a photograph of its wearer. Yeah, a computer generated garment is superimposed onto a photograph of its wearer. And if its creators and a growing band of designers, costumers, and professional forward thinkers are to be believed, digital clothing might just be the future of the fashion industry. Um, it sort of beggars belief. This, I mean, in virtual worlds, we have the idea of dressing your avatar. For the fashionistas and people who, consumer people who hang out in places like Second Life, know that it just takes a couple of seconds to change your costume, and it's much faster than in the real world where fashionistas probably take a whole day to change a costume. I don't know. Um, So, and there's all, and there are people in those worlds, for example, who will never wear the same costume twice, because there's always a new costume they can find to put on virtually. And actually, some very rich people are probably the same in the real world with their, dresses and stuff, wear them once and then they send them to the thrift shop. Um, don't know really. Um, I can see something like being disposable because if you actually did, but you'd actually be buying. Maybe it would sort of be a some form of digital dress, and it would then be it'd be modelled to you according to a photographic scan of your own body. But then exactly how you wear it, I don't know whether you would actually attach it to a part of your body where it projected outwards, or whether it's a purely hologram type thing that exists around you. Um, Fascinating stuff. Anyway, if you want to know more about this stuff, because I certainly can't explain it fully, but it's curious, where do you want to go? You want to go to esquire.com, ESQUIRE. .com, and I'm just scrolling down quickly to see if there's a link to. Um, no, there's an awful lot of information in that article which would explain exactly what it's all about from an artistic and commercial point of view, I believe. And you'll probably be able to put two and two together with the links there. It sounds like the organisation you want is called the Fabricant. Um, their their offices are in Amsterdam, and what? Oh, never mind, never mind. I'm going to start reading instead of talking to you. Okay, so esquire.com is the one for there. Right, now that's all the stuff that you'll find in twitter.com/malbones. You'll find a whole lot more over the last 2 weeks there than I've even touched on here. But those were just a few of the curiosities and important things. The other feed we have, however, is twitter.com/Metaworld News, as in this show. Metaworld News is all one word. And a few posts there from this week or last week. I'm going to actually turn the other way here. On January the 1st, Ave Maria posted a post called The Year in Grid Stats. And as usual, she has got her graphs and stuff all there ready. Um, she's also got another post here from the day before, in fact, December 31st, which is OpenSim, a year in review. Um, one of the things Maria had been planning was a whole series on a review of OSCC, the OpenSim Community Conference that happened. Um, when was it? About a sort of week before the holidays or something last year. Unfortunately, that article, like a lot of things, has been postponed because nobody has found any of the replay material yet. So you can't very well write. She obviously relies on being able to watch the sessions in replay and study what was said before she can actually write an article about them. And she hasn't been able to get hold of them. So she's put off that until she can get hold of them. In which case, by the time she does, hopefully they won't all be out of date. Okay, moving on. This is a site. Actually, I've only begun getting them as an RSS feed. The site is called Hypergrid Zone. So it's just HTTPS blah blah hypergrid dot zone. So the dot zone is like the suffix, and links and stuff like this. I've only put one up, which is 6 days ago now. It's a review of an area called Luna Lunaria. It's got photographs, pictures, tells you a little bit about it, and it's also continues into an interview with the person behind it. It's on a grid called Our Life Grid. So it's really a destination kind of review, and nice to see a site that's coming up with, shall we say, slightly more meaty reviews of things on OpenSim rather than straightforward listings or, announcements of a new region that's popped up. So the site you want here is hypergrid.zone, and Hypergrid Adventures there. I think that takes you to. Oh yeah, that's actually just one of the categories there. They've obviously got links to destinations and things there too. So let's put those away. And right now, returning once more to probably the biggest news in OpenSim, and this is something I find. I would dare to say. Normally, well, we all know on this show, at least, I do have opinions. Yay! Rabbit hole and opinionating. What it's all about. Actually, normally when you're reading news and stuff, you try to steer clear of opinions unless you just want to be kind of a bit flippant and something about them. But this is something that's actually driven me mad. This news. Um, it's very unclear exactly what happened here, although Maria's headline, when she says a personal feud takes down the Great Canadian Grid, really said, oh, it's apparently a personal dispute between Roddy Mackey at Great Canadian Grid and Terry Ford at DigiWorlds. And DigiWorlds is not only a grid, but an open sim services provider. It's been providing critical grid services to Great Canadian Grid and, a commercial arrangement. And apparently it's cut off those services after a personal dispute between DigiWorld's owner, Terry Ford, and the Great Canadian Grid owner. Maria notes it's the first known example of a major customer service misstep by Ford. And I would concur with that. I mean, this is a misstep, and I've always respected Terry Ford and Gigi Wills. They've never really been cooperative with community conventions and things like that. They're very much, off on their own limb. Most of the Digi Wills back end code, open sync code diverges from the mainstream a fair bit, though not excessively. And Canada's did too for a while. Um, anyway, this disagreement started out apparently over rude things being said in public. But like many arguments, led down many other paths. This is as Terry Ford told Hypergrid Business. Um, don't know that they actually managed to get hold of Rocky for this thing. Um, I'm not even going to repeat what is being said there because actually, although this isn't a news article, I think mentioning specific facts from one side probably is a bit biased. Is a bit. It sounds like Maria is on Canadians' grid side, yet she's quoting Terry Ford on Digiworlds. So I suppose it's evenly handed in its way. The optics are damning, and Digiworlds as a service provider is going to bear the brunt of the blame. So although it's Great Canadian Grid that's actually suffered in the eyes of the public, it's Digiworlds that is really well, yeah, there's just no word to describe. It's not that they're just being mean or they're being petty, and they're probably in breach of a service contract because this stuff. No, DigiWorld doesn't do anything for free. I can tell you that. So um, maybe the message here is that if Facebook cut off everyone who said bad things about Mark Zuckerberg, well, I wouldn't be on it. That's all I ever post. That's all I ever post is bad
Right,
things about
right.
Zuckerberg. Yeah, if Facebook cut everybody who said bad things about Mark Zuckerberg, it would be a major violation of trust. Although they do say in brackets, so these days would we really be surprised? Anyway, no comment from Roddy Mackey here on that, and that's sad. Now, I'm going to click over verbatim here on the other side of my screen. You can't see it, but I have the Hypergrid Explorers and Creators Discord channel, which I started and still sort of run. There's not much running involved. I just host it. Um, and there are grid channels there, one of which is for Great Canadian Grid, and there's been a fair old amount of talk in that channel since Canadian Grid disappeared. None of it really from Roddy. It's all members of this Discord channel who obviously have a fondness. Either they were users of, or Old Soul Eldmar is one of them. Lighthouse is another. Where are we? Edward Ashford, another. People commenting, and also Edmar also tends to quote Robbie Mackey's posts on places like Facebook as well. So basically, Roddy Mackey's reaction was that this was all too much after this many years and this many problems down the road. He was just going to give up. Um, but he was then, I don't know by whom or how, persuaded that, some people wanted to start a fundraising campaign to, get the grid back and running. This will be no easy task, I hasten to add, because it's not like, the grid's just gone down and you need to change server companies or something like that. It's a very complex issue where the Canadian grid, it's got its own servers, it's got its database, it's got everything you would think it needed to run, but the whole level of services that the way all the bits and pieces actually need to run, if that's being controlled by DigiWorlds, um, whoever they get to replace that has got to. I would have to sort of go in there and t- tie all the connections together again to make it all work. It's a bit like like a puppet, an old-fashioned puppet. You got a bit of wood and a whole load of strings, and you wiggle it to control the puppet. You break those strings, and the puppet collapses. It's dead to the world. It's useless. The actual puppet itself is not broken. It's just that somebody's cut the strings that allowed you to make it work. And it's this, I think I'm right in saying this is the kind of situation we're in. You've got the Great Canadian Grey just sitting there fallen flat because all the strings, the puppeteering that it needs to work have been literally um, torn away by DigiWorld. So go figure, go figure. I just what is the world coming to when this isn't Microsoft versus Apple. In fact, maybe it should be. This is just two small little players in a huge um, perspective metaverse. You know, um, they're invisible on the graph of the internet. Just squabbling and effectively, it would do no end of damage to DigiWorld's reputation and ability to get clients. Although it might boost their own grid, I don't know. And it's irredeemably damaged Great Canadian Grid. And all because two people have a little spat. That's not business. That's not even. It's just not professional. And people have. Last time you saw me here, I was here with my Great Canadian Grid avatar. Because I've used my avatar there for long enough. I got a huge inventory there. Well, I did have. That's gone. Um, so when it comes to OpenSim, this is a major sort of thing. But I wouldn't want to take sides or anything. I'm just more disgusted that two people are having a little spat. So it's like developers who don't, who one person wants to go one way, one wants to go the other way. They can't make up their mind up, and neither one of them actually consider what the general user might want. You know, don't be insular. You know, just and for God's sake, play professionally because if you're not professional, you're not in the game. Ultimately, you may pretend to be, a professional, I don't know, videographer or something, and get away with it for a couple of years, and then people will realise you don't actually know what you're doing. And the world doesn't work like that. I mean, if you can run a grid, sure, but if you can't actually handle public relations, then you should have somebody that does and keep yourself shut up. Or I'm. Oh dear, I don't know whether this is a rabbit hole or whether I'm just venting. But
Mm,
James will tell you I was
mm,
venting for about 2 hours before we came on air about this, that, and the other. So anyway, I suppose it was inevitable that I would save what I consider to be the bad news, or the most despicable news, really, to last. And as they pointed out in this thing, yeah, this happened over the Xmas holiday. A service provider cuts off a customer base, wasn't they believe they heard the customer say, and because it's business to business relationship, all the customers and users are affected as well. So just because he cuts off Roddy Mackey, he actually cuts off, all Roddy Mackey's customers at the same time too. Um, right, Mackey said he would not have cut off service to a customer over a personal dispute. So he did reply on that front. Yeah, and he specifically said, I would never put 7,000 people's lives at stake over pettiness, especially at Xmas time, which probably says it all, really. I mean, of all the times you could actually do this, especially over pettiness. Um, so, anyway, oh, looky here. If you want to follow this article, you can see there is a major discussion been happening ever since. Um, I don't know where I don't know where this actually ends. Butch Arnold here, by the way, is the avatar name of Terry Ford himself. So he's obviously engaged in that discussion. Um, I was rather hoping Roddy might be there, but anyway, I'm spending too much time on this. Every avatar I've ever heard of seems to be getting their act in there. Right.
mm.
Okay, and of course, if you have Discord, look up Hypergrid Explorers and Creators server there, and the conversation along with a whole load of other stuff you'll find continuing there. Which brings me to the end of endings stuff.
Mm.
Phew! And I thought this was going to be short because we didn't have much. But right, I'm going to hand over to you, James. What do you think of all that? Give me a break. I don't want before I start ranting again.
Oh goodness, I wow. I,
Ah,
I My thoughts through the show were really there was an article about is 2020 the make or break year for VR, and
Oh yeah.
I find headlines like that overall hilarious. Um, I don't think there's a breaking of VR. I see these questions a lot on other forums too. Is this going to become the mainstream? And I don't know.
Mm.
I don't think it's destined to be the mainstream. I think a lot of people want to make a lot of profit and hope that it would be the mainstream, but I don't think it's going to break VR either. This is going to be something that people are going to be trying for a long time, trying to understand. You know, so I have to laugh at those types of headlines.
I do. In fact,
Yeah.
sometimes I have to laugh at any. But it's when you're having a year in review. It's another. It's
Mhm.
another one when anybody looks to the year ahead because you can look back on things and thinking, my goodness, that was pathetic.
Mhm.
But you can't rely on prophecy. It's anything can happen in the next half hour,
That's right.
let alone the next day or something. And the old adage about sort of walk out and be run over a bus and nothing, you won't know anything thereafter anyway.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, looking to the future, I think you said you can follow patterns and you can get ideas. And I think what's happened at this point in time, especially when I look at high fidelity and stuff, is things that were lurking and suspected under the surface. Well, certainly I thought, have proven to be true. But I would never have said I could have prophesied that. It was just accumulations of little things that would seem to suggest this and that. And clearly, the failure in public take up of headset land, is a thing that's come home to roost and has taken a bit of a while to impact on some of the enterprises involved in things that relied on it.
Mhm.
Um, so that kind of thing. It's here. Certainly, it's here. The technology is here to stay in the sense that as a couple of articles, not the ones we've looked at today, but other articles in the last couple of weeks have hinted, looking back, right?
Mhm.
You can go back to the 1970s to find the first instances of VR.
Yeah.
The thing is that the resolution technology and all those things that we think make VR now just didn't exist then. But the actual idea of putting a headset on and being in a chair with an engine on it that made you bounce up and down and made you think you were rocking around in an aircraft, all the flight simulators, all that's been there since the 80s and particularly in the 90s. In fact, I don't know if you remember back, we did a in-world review special after the last show we did. Or is it just before the conference, and Leah Lobo was here, and
Mhm.
she was reflecting on,
Oh yeah.
some of the fully immersive stuff she was doing in the mid 90s. And again, that was very early on, but it does go back before even that. So the thing is, we have the fidelity to, and we have the improvements in technology that make this technology much more usable. And although it's still quite expensive, it's more, you know, you have a high fidelity, not the platform, but a high fidelity product available at a reasonable price for the enterprise, certainly. And it has potential uses now. But the technology itself needs to become commonplace. I don't mean in everybody's home. I mean commonplace enough in the public, the sense of our culture. References in culture,
Mhm.
the ubiquity of such devices being around, right? If not in our homes, when that's accepted and the things they can do is accepted, then you're going to start seeing more innovation as the public awareness of those is there. I mean, think of it a bit like, I don't know, maybe the turn of the 1900s or something. No, it probably be no. I'm trying to imagine a point in time where every secretary in every workplace had a clunky old manual typewriter,
Mhm.
bonk, bonk, bonk. But nobody at home, except possibly authors, would ever have had that typewriter in those days. It
Indeed.
was
Yep.
it was a very useful, innovatory device that became ubiquitous in certain fields. It is forerunner of our computer keyboards today, of course, but it was never in everybody's home. But it was just a thing that was everywhere and it was indispensable where it was, even though it wasn't necessarily indispensable in other places, if you see what I mean.
Hmm.
And probably the hardware side of helmets and stuff is beginning to be a bit like that now. The opportunities it opens up for scientists, surgeons, um, viewing, data viewing when you need to view streams of data in extra dimensions and things like that. But there are all sorts of commercial or academic applications there. And once people get used to it, it's not going to go away anywhere. But whether those applications in themselves do anything to make people want to think, oh, I ought to have this at home, so I've got a helmet plugged into my city so that I can, you know, don't think it's going to happen. 3D TV, that never took off. You've got TV. Why, some people like it, I suppose, but
I like it.
you only get special programs for it now. It never took off like high definition did.
Hmm.
High definition, people love it when the definition gets bigger and better and better and better. They don't really seem to give too much of a damn, the general public, as to whether it's in it gives you 3D or not, because
Well, they
the
don't have to
3D
put
is
on
actually
glasses. Yeah, it
exactly,
wasn't
and
convenient.
it's artificial 3D too.
Mm.
It's not like headset 3D where every component that you see can be an actual part of a 3D schematic. I mean, what you get on 3D TV is simply a layering that gives you the illusion of certain things coming out in front of you. Um, but yeah, all these things are great to see coming along, and I mean, I don't know, I remember when I tried the first 3D videotape. I think it was a Kama Sutra or something, and I remember I had to put on the garbled glasses with the color filters, and then
Hmm.
put the videotape on. On a normal player, there wasn't a special videotape player for 3D video. You just put it on the normal one. You had to wear the glasses, and looked at it for about 5 minutes, and you thought it's a bit sharp. And then after about 5 minutes, you suddenly realised that something was sort of a bit further forward than it should be, and it worked. But they had those three strange 3D pictures made of dots, didn't they, for a long while? And I would stare at those things for an hour or two and never see the picture that was supposed to be in them. Other people would see it in seconds. So, you know, I love the way people try with these things, but so often they're not really going anywhere. They kind of remain there, maybe in the field of arts or something. I saw somebody playing not so long ago with it was a live gig thing,
Hmm.
and they were playing. They obviously had some material they must have mastered. I don't know, 40 years ago or something, on video records. Did you ever come across that?
I'm
Ah,
not.
well,
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like. No, I'm not thinking. Not in
yeah.
that particular description. No.
It They were before videotape.
Hmm.
They were before Laserdisc, which of course came before DVDs and stuff like that. Philips, it was the Philips Corporation, had this idea of they would encode video onto a vinyl LP.
Hmm.
In the same way, eventually they came out with video CDs. You had the 70-minute format, and they put video. The sound quality of the video went down because compared with the CD, because they only had the same volume of space to put 70 minutes of audio and video. That's where MPEG-3 came from, because it was the sound layer of video CD. Um, but before that, they had these vinyl things, and they hooked up to a TV, and they had video recordings on vinyl. And anyway, somebody revitalized one of these ancient machines, because you know how in music, a couple of decades ago now, scratch became a kind of part of rap and things, where you
Hmm.
get these guys on the mixer deck and they'd be scratching records. In fact, they actually make records these days, especially for scratch artists.
Hmm.
So they're jerking the sound around. So you go or something, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, what these guys were doing, they'd gone back to these ancient things from the 80s, the like video LPs, and they were doing the same thing visually by scratching the record. They were
Oh,
actually
okay.
scratching the video track in the same way that the scratch artists would scratch audio tracks originally. Of course, there aren't many of these machines left around, but you know, it made for a very interesting aesthetic that was totally different from, you know, you could probably feed components into a computer and make something that simulated that, but this was something they were able to do live just by changing records and changing the bits they wanted to use and
Sure.
then
Yep.
sampling them and looping them and by manually doing it, you know, it wasn't a programming operation, it was just a matter of somebody's hand on the video record and you know it was different. It was very different, you know. And in a way, it was nice to see because it's a piece of old technology that you know doesn't you know people have long forgotten. You know, it's
Mhm.
people have forgotten VHS tape now. Although I must admit, I've got shells of them that will never get watched again. Um, and what was the other thing? Oh, I've still got one. Do you know the first way, the first method I ever had for getting on the internet at home? Right?
Mhm.
This would have been late 80s, I think. Was again Philips. They brought out shortly after they brought out the CD. They brought out something called CDI,
Yes, I remember that.
which were interactive discs. And if yeah, there was an empty slot at the back where eventually you were able to buy a cartridge with an MPEG decoder in it, so you could actually play video CDs because they were a forerunner of DVDs really as well. I used to love that kind of device. Now it wasn't analog, so I couldn't take the CD and scratch it, you know. But there were various things that came with that that I still quite like. You know, they'd be fairly simple sort of things, and eventually, you know, CD-ROMs took over, which probably killed the CDI itself. But um, the way you know you attach the CDI machine actually had lots of sockets for all sorts of things, and one thing so you were able to you know attach it to a modem. And a company over here, part of Philips themselves, they launched a thing called CD Online, and they shipped you a CD, right? And all that was on the CD was the CDI interface that allowed you to set up a name, password, account, and everything else to dial into their number to get on the internet. And there was a CD version of, I think it was Mosaic, the original, you know, Mozilla web browser
Mhm.
on the very early thing. Was it Mosaic? Okay. Um, on the CD.
Netscape.
And oh, it's way before Netscape. I actually can't remember. It was CDI browser or something.
Mhm.
I had a feeling it was um, familiar from something else at the time. But and also they provided me with email. So my first ever email address was Malbones at CD Online, and I just got it on my television set every night. Plugged it in, typed in the password, checked for any email, and then and then answered it, and then checked any links to websites, of which there weren't that many in those days. And they were it was all quite large text and stuff like that, and they did a few things to it to make it so that it didn't damage cathode ray tube televisions. But yeah, that was the first internet access. But they sent a disc out one day, all for free, saying, "Hey, we just discovered something. If you want to try this out." Yeah, and they said they'd been fiddling with the code that made their web CD work, and they'd accidentally stumbled upon this thing which looked to me very much like VRML. And what do you think of it? And basically, it was like a primary color filled wireframe, But it was like also a bit like these endless runner games. There were no obstacles and much at all, but you were able to use your CGI cursor on the TV to run and walk down corridors and take turns, and you felt you were in 3D space because you couldn't go through a wall. You had to follow it like a maze. And it was totally aimless and pointless, but it was just great fun because one had never been able to. It was the closest you came to an arcade game, I suppose, that was endlessly, just endless. Running on the CDI machine, and it was endless because it was simply creating more and more of of the world. As you trotted through it, even though all the world were walls and floors. Um, and yeah, I'm reminiscing now. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is the other thing we do at the New Year, isn't it? We have our New Year reflections. Have we been on air 3 or 4 hours yet?
Um,
Our New Year special. We
one
started
hour,
late,
one
didn't
hour
we?
20.
1 hour 20. Oh yeah, 9 o'clock at night. I'm
Yep.
already here. Not for you, I know. Right, I think we better call it a day. Um, we'll be back, I think, as normal from now on, since all the holiday sort of stuff is over. We'll just come from, believe it or not, we are still coming to you from our outside studio at the Open Community Conference Grid. And without my Canadian avatar or the Metaworld regions up, um, this is the only poor avatar I've got at the moment. I managed to get the actual look sort of right, but no, not the wrong. I haven't got the right hat yet, and I haven't got the shades to cover up that disastrous eye operation I had. And well, what can I say? We'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed. And yeah, who knows what the future holds? An appropriate thing to say in the new year, really. So I'd like to thank James here for being with us on buttons and voice.
Yeah, sure thing, Mal.
Okay. And yes, this has also been me, Mal Bones, talking, procrastinating, venting, opinionating, and
Mm.
everything else along with the news.
All the above.
Okay. Yeah. So it's goodbye from him anyway.
And goodbye from him also, anyway.
Yeah. So from the two of us, hope you have a good week and we'll see you this time next one. Bye bye.